Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. We are here today doing a live react post the 1-1 draw with Spurs. I've got Skibby joining us. Skibby's walking back from the Tottenham Stadium. Skibby, you're on mute. Fingers crossed you're going to turn it off mute in time. Give us your thoughts on the game today, mate.
I put myself on mute because two cars and a helicopter decided to go by, so it was a bit hard. But no, as you can see, I'm walking in the lovely area of Tottenham. But yeah, at the game today, so it was really interesting because I think obviously we didn't know what to expect. The big news that Andreas wasn't even in the squad. Marco sort of giving his stamp of authority, I guess, on the squad and letting them know no one is bigger than the club. So that was an interesting point. But I think, the fans were in great voice as always. And, we were out of the blocks pretty quickly. I think defensively from the get-go, we tried to gift Son a goal. I don't know if any of them had bets on the Son to score first, because I think it was Bassi either both times or one of them Robinson. So a bit nervy at the back. I think early days, Lukic and Berger were both kind of in that number 6 role. So they were kind of not really knowing who's going to be sitting where. And that after sort of the first 15-10 minutes, that was pretty kind of comfortable and a bit more stable. But and then from then, we just kicked on. I mean, Raul, I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he was getting a lot of chances. He was being able to sort of get into the right positions. He was right in behind the defence. And I think credit where credit's due, great balls in, but he's making the runs. He's getting the space. He just couldn't finish. I mean, one of them I'd say is a fantastic save by Forster, who I tipped as probably having a bit of a mistake in him in the sort of before the game. But it's just a shame that, it's one of those, isn't it? You catch it, you get it on towards goal, and that's all you can do as a striker. But great saves from Forster, but it just goes to show, we didn't put them away. We didn't take our chances. And then early on in the second half, we get stung. I don't know where Robinson was for that goal. It just seemed that Brennan Johnson was just free at the back stick. And it's just one of those things. But unfortunately, I thought from a fullback position, we were really strong. We were looking good. Werner and Johnson had really quiet games. But it just happened to be that one chance fell to Johnson at the back stick, and we pushed on from there, and we had more chances. Diop at the back stick from across from Nelson, who I thought had a really good game, just wasn't going to go. You're just thinking, this is going to be one of those games, and bring on Harry Wilson, bring on Tom Kearney, and finally we had a midfielder who would actually take a bloody shot. It was just one of those things where we had a lot of the ball around and in and around the box, and we just didn't take any kind of shots, pot shots. Like I said, Fraser Forster, I thought would have a bit of a mistake in him. We didn't really test him as much as I thought from sort of distance, but always going to be the tap-ins. But no, Turk Kearney, what a strike, what a goal. I mean, I think I saw something about an own goal. I don't know if I saw all that right, but from my opinion, it looked like it was Kearney into the inside of the left-hand post and celebrated with Fulham fans. And when Kearney scores, the buzz of the fans is just seems a bit more extra than a normal goal. So that was just really good. But yeah, I thought when we sort of got that one goal back, you thought it was going to be ready for the taking. But it happens. The red card for me was just a bit. It was one of those. It's angle from where we were. It looked like one of those kind of cynical fouls. Maybe a nudge in the back, a little bit of a trip. But yeah, when they put it on the big screen, there wasn't much you could say about it. But it wasn't malicious from Kenny. I don't think he intended to stamp on the back of his leg. But yeah, I mean, and that always changes it. So I think, Sessegnon coming on in a really weird position. I don't know where he was, but it was quite clear then that we were looking to sort of see out the draw, which we did. And I thought, in a way, quite comfortably, which was interesting. I think for me, Spurs weren't as good as I thought they were going to be. They just had they seemed to sort of knock it about the box, but there was no real sort of penetration from Spurs. And obviously Son just looks like a different player to me, not the same kind of player that you would have maybe 3 or 4 years ago, like ruthless in front of goal. Like anytime he got if he was 1-on-1 from the halfway line, you'd back him to score every time. We put him 1-on-1 from the 6-yard box, and he missed both chances, I think. But he just seems like a different player. But no, I mean, good result. If you gave me 1-1 at the beginning of the game, would have bitten your hand off cleanly. So all round, I reckon a good day. Just unfortunate that Lukic is now banned. Pereira's having his punishment, and Kearney's now banned. So centre mid's now looking a bit thin on the ground.
Yeah, there's heaps to talk about, and obviously we'll go through it all properly when we sort of recap this game in the next couple of days. But look, I think you wrapped it up pretty well there, really. For me, the main talking points here: Jimenez, wasteful. He had a lot of opportunities. The ball was being put into really good areas, and to be fair, he was getting into those areas, but he's not finishing. And I think that's what you want from a striker. Getting in the area is one thing, but then putting it away is another. And he had 2 opportunities where he effectively had 3 shots on goal. And in the second half, we saw another sort of header that he looped back to Foster that I think if that had happened in the first half, he probably tries to take a touch and then finishes that really well. But he'd almost got spooked in the first half by trying to take too many touches. And he's in his head. And you could sort of see when he got subbed off, you could see it in his face that he'd failed. And I think Muniz spent, not a huge amount of time on the pitch. He was only on for the last 10 or so minutes. But in that time, he looked probably more impressive and more impactful than Jimenez throughout the whole game. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Muniz start in the next game. I think you're right. We've got a massive problem through the middle now. Problem maybe a bit strong, but Lukic out for the next game. Kenny out suspended for a straight red card, which is a 3-game suspension. Lukic will be 1 game. Harrison Reed injured. Pereira, obviously, before the game we saw, we found out he was going to be dropped, and that was dropped live on the Discord a couple of hours before it was announced as well, just FYI. The fact that he released a statement just before the game, which we've also shared on Twitter and Blue Sky, so you'll be able to see that. I can't see him coming straight back into this side. So as we were sort of talking about, as the game sort of finished, I think we're likely to see a Iwobi slot in there, and Harry Wilson, who was quite impressive in his short time on the pitch. I think we'll see him come on. He worked really hard defensively as well as going forward. He looked really good. Look, it's a really positive result. I think, if anything, we should be disappointed to come away from this game with 1 point. And if Kenny hadn't been sent off, I could have seen us actually going on and winning this game. I don't know about you guys and how it felt in the stadium, but it just felt like that sort of took the life out of the game a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was a real buzz around, especially the Fulham area. But I mean, the stadium, when we equalised, the stadium was flat. Spurs on the pitch had run out of ideas. The fans weren't really behind the team. I think even at full time there was boos from the contingent, just
There was
not liking what they saw. They weren't ruthless enough. They didn't really take the sort of chance. Well, not even the chances. They didn't really make any chances. That's the problem. Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it? It's the roller coaster of, we were all over them first half. We should have been about 2 or 3 goals up. Then they come out second half to get the goal, and then you're like, oh, here we go, easy 1-0 win. Then we get the equaliser, and you're thinking, okay, maybe it's all coming up. And then the red card changes it back down again. Like, okay, maybe we'll take the draw. But that's football, isn't it? And I mean, that's what we kind of think of when we think of Fulham, really. It's just the way that we seem to sort of manage our games at the moment. I think I put in the chat, I miss the days where, we were up for European football in the Fair Play League, because we didn't get a red card in like 2 seasons. But no, it seems to be the way that Marco has very drilled into the passion of his team. But yeah, I think it was definitely a game for the taking from a Fulham perspective. But I mean, I can't really be disheartened from a 1-1 draw, if I'm honest, especially with 10 men, and especially the sort of players that they had on the pitch. I thought Spurs could have inflicted more pain if they really were a bit more ruthless, but they just didn't seem to have that cutting edge, which was probably good for us. But I think defensively we looked quite sound. I thought Diop had a good game. The right-hand side, actually, all day was Diop and Tete were fantastic. And Tete's definitely going under the radar for being sort of our player of the season so far, because he's just been doing everything that Robinson does, but without the sort of plaudits of gallivanting forward and getting the assists. I think in terms of the interceptions and the reading of the ball, he's been fantastic. And he nicked the ball off, I think, was it Werner's head? Was a fantastic sort of defensive action from Tete. So, I mean, we're defensively sound. It'll be interesting to see, I mean, not in the next game, but how this Lukic Berger centre mid partnership works out, because I thought they did quite well. I thought Sasha was making a lot more forward runs, which was kind of on the right hand side of the pitch in front of the away fans. So it was really good to sort of see him getting forward and getting the ball into the box. But just that cutting edge, we just need a striker who wants to score and just hit some scoring form. And we know that if Rodrigo Muniz gets that chance and gets that goal, then he can go on a bit of a scoring spree. But it's just whether it's time for him to have that chance or whether we still stick with Raul Jimenez is a big question. But I do think that he is sort of snatching his chances, and with that, his confidence is going down, which is not great for a striker, especially someone like Raul Jimenez, who we've seen in low confidence, is just not a great striker to have on the pitch at that time.
Yeah, definitely. No, look, I think you've summarized the whole game. I was going to ask you pretty much the exact things that you just answered. So I was going to say defensively, I think you're right. The two fullbacks, Robinson and Tete, were brilliant going forward and defensively. Diop and Bassi took a little while to settle, but once they did, and I think I said it in the chat, and we'll discuss it in more depth when we do review this game properly. But I think Lukic and Berger were almost sat too far forward at the very start of the game. And after the first 10 minutes, they just started to sit deeper, and it gave Bassi the opportunity to play out of defence a little bit better. And that's where the mistakes were coming early doors. Once we sorted that out, it was very solid, and we really didn't give Spurs much of a sniff. And that's saying a lot against a team who put 4 past Man City last week. So I think it's a really good result for Fulham. It does feel like points dropped, but I think really when you take a step back and consider this is a team who are fighting for European football, to take a 1-1 draw in this game is a really good result, and I think we can actually
completely dismantled Man City as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, Skibby, I'll let you go and get your train, mate. But really appreciate you jumping on and quick reviewing the end of this game. If you've enjoyed this, guys, we'll try and do it a little bit more often. But thanks very much for joining in. Cheers, Skibby, again. And we'll be reviewing this game properly over the next couple of days, and also previewing the Brighton game coming later this week. So thanks again to everyone who's joined on the live. And as always, come on, you Whites.